and they all kind of like revolve around Trump. Um, so there is a reporter named Michelle Fields, um, nice looking, probably around 30, maybe a little younger, maybe a little bit older, I don't know. Um, she's a reporter for Breitbart, who is a conservative magazine similar to Huffington Post or BuzzFeed, I guess on the liberal side. Um, she was at an event, and after the end, Trump was going through, and as reporters do, they were like lining up, trying to, as he was walking by, ask him questions, and he answered some of them. And then when it got to the point that it was ready for them to leave, she pushed forward a little bit and was kind of like told to basically move back. This is normal things that happen in these type of events, but apparently she felt that she was accosted, assaulted, or basically, I don't know, because she's a woman she can't be touched type of thing. So she said something about it. Now, in her defense, she had a Washington Post reporter there with her who saw what happened or thought he saw it and talked to her at the same time it happened. And he got a story from her saying that she was basically thrown down to the ground. Not really, but that's how she felt it was going to happen. So he ran along with that, and then people came to her and asked her about it, and then she had to, at some point, she had to put herself in part of the story. And in the Breitbart news article, she said, I did not want to be part of the story, but now I'm going to write about it. And then she went on a nice little thing where she ran every talk show or TV show to talk about how bad the person that touched her was, and she compared it at some point on Megyn Kelly's show that she didn't feel this bad since her dad was killed. Now, 10 years ago, I probably would have believed everything she said, but I don't really believe women when it comes to things like this. And so people started asking the question. All the reporters that were there, why don't we have any video or a picture evidence of what happened? So it started to stream out more and more over the last couple of days, and we started seeing things and like, wow, I don't really think that's really what happened. Maybe she was actually touched, but maybe she she exaggerated or whatever. And then she, at some point in between these, she started throwing a picture of herself with the bruise. And I'll try to put those all those things in the low bar, the picture of her arm and all that stuff, and the videos about what it was. So last night, apparently, Ben Shapiro, who's somebody I kind of like because he goes on campuses and starts telling SJWs to basically wake up and grow up. Apparently he's a white knight because he resigned because how Breitbart didn't defend Michelle Fields. I think all Breitbart was looking for is the evidence that happened. And of course, Ben Shapiro basically said that Breitbart is in the tank for Trump, which is not true. The people he calls out, I listen to almost every day, and although I'm not a conservative, I think that they both like Cruz, they both like Trump. Stephen O'Bannon, I think he's a Cruz supporter, but regardless. So when the video came out this morning, a lot of people obviously just laughed at Ben Shapiro and Michelle Fields, and Field is kind of weird. She has a kind of a history of doing this, and so again, at some point as a guy, I always have to take a step back. Unless it's my daughter or my wife, I'm not going to believe anything that a woman says when it comes to things like this, because they lie, and they do it over and over again. So when the video came out, we found out, yeah, it looks like that she might have been touched. But if you look at the video, there's no distress on her face. There was no hint that she was going down to the ground. She basically didn't like the fact that she was physically touched, whereas we know that if you were being honest about it, if it was a man doing it to another man, no one would give a shit about it. Now, let's talk about Ben Shapiro. He's a small guy, okay? I'm 6'2", 220, right? He's probably 4'5", 5'4", 5'4". After seeing him doing the debates and been at campuses, he's a small guy. I would say he probably was about 140. She can't be any bigger or smaller than him. So it's not a physical thing, is it, Ben? I mean, clearly you wouldn't say anything if he actually put his hand on you around that area because you're in the way when they were trying to depart. So why were you white knighting here? And that's the thing I don't understand from him. Like I said, she's attractive. Maybe because he's kind of really an old nerd guy that he thought maybe there was something there, even though he's married. But I don't really want to go into that area. But the fact that he was white knighting is disturbing to me. When he tells people, SJWs, that it's not about your feelings that matter, it's facts and evidence, I would hope that he at some point will come out and say, maybe I was a little over the top here. And to their credit, there are a lot of people on the conservative side that have called him out for it, and there are other people that don't. So there it's one of those things that if you're somewhat of a supporter of Trump, you're going to support their claim that there was no assault. And if you're not, or if you just hate Trump so much, you're just going to blame her or believe her. I can't do any of that stuff because she's a liar. At the very least, she over-exaggerated it, but for her own fame. And she has a history of doing this. Of course, I don't know these things. I didn't know this woman before, but she put her name out there, so I started looking it up, and I find out that she's done this before. And she was called out before, and she's been hoaxed things before. And then if you look on her Twitter feed, there's a picture at the top that says cashing in. Now, I'm wondering she can't be that brazen that she put that in there, that this is how she's going to cash in, or maybe somebody hacked her account and put it out there. But there's been nothing on her website or on her Twitter feed that said that happened. So maybe that's the name of her new book that's coming out in June. It's very possible that's it. But what upsets me about this is there's no reason why. I mean, she could say, yeah, I was touched and I want to talk about it. But when she starts comparing it about when her father dies and how she felt that day and how much abuse she's been getting on Twitter because she talked about things, we're getting into the Anita Sarkeesian area or Zoe Quinn, that if somebody calls you out on Twitter that says you're a liar, that's harassment, even though it's clear that I don't know. You guys can look at it in the video, and you can ask me if you actually look at the entire story and see if what she's saying is over the top. Maybe she should back off. But they don't do this. People don't do this to do this until they're actually caught over and over again. And we can talk about the Duke Ross. Even today, 10 years later, people in Duke are still blaming the men in that case when it was a hoax. And maybe I'll talk about that. But everybody talks about this. It's not something that's not new. We can talk about female nature and male nature. Men dominate the world because for physical, we're logical. At the end of the day, we're probably a little bit smarter. Not all men, but over the day we probably are. But women have their own stuff that they do. Part of it is to manipulate people and lie or over-exaggerate to see how men will come and defend them. Because this is clearly a case of white knighting by Ben Shapiro. There are a lot of men out there that are still saying that she was touched and you should never touch a woman. Regardless of if it was a man, no one would say a shit about it. So we are hardwired to defend a woman because at the end of the day, we want to believe them. We still do. But I don't, I tweeted out this morning, Judy Bitch months ago, maybe weeks ago, she put out there why women shouldn't vote. So I just changed it. So why do we ever even believe them about anything? Because it's clear that they will lie just to defame, to get attention or anything. And this is what she was doing. Now, maybe she would have done anything if there wouldn't have been another white guy, a white knight next to her when it happened, and he put her name out there. Maybe this wouldn't have came out. But she definitely took it for the rest of her life. And now she's been on all these shows when all she was just a beat reporter for Breitbart. But good for her. I guess she's going to get money from it, and somebody will always support her because she's kind of a nice-looking girl. You know, she said the same thing about, who was it? Was it Anderson Cooper was asking her, and she's like, if I had to talk to Trump, I would say, why would you, maybe you should do something about it because I could have been your daughter. And I just hate this shit. This is what Obama said about Trayvon Martin without the evidence, looking at the evidence. No. If you have that job, that there's going to be a time you might be pushed back because he's a presidential candidate, and when they're asked to leave, might have to be physically moved away. But the problem, it's more than this though. It's like the society says we can't do anything. We can't even look at women. We can't put a hand on them. We can't do anything like that. And the entitlement that they have, and she's from that class. I'm clear that when she was at school, I'm sure that all this stuff was ingrained in her mind. Of course, our culture says you should never touch a woman, hit a woman, anything. That men have to be responsible for everything in society. And it gets me back to the videos I've said before. There is no way in this society that will ever look at women as equal to men, because they don't have the same responsibility, the same accountability. Even if we know that they're smart and they can do the job, when they start using the vagina thing, or I'm a victim because I'm a woman, that's it. You've lost it. So she's lost any credibility that she's ever had. Like I said, you can look at it. She's done this before. But I don't believe anything she would ever say in the future. And there's going to be a small set of guys who are going to still say anything, and just because they might think that somehow she's going to respond to them and want to have sex with them because they're so pushy-whipped to believe something like that. Because that's what we do. That's what guys have to do. And women know this. And it's like, I don't know. If it's right there in your face and you saw what it is, you look at the video and it says, man, she might have been touched, but there is absolutely no stress on her face at all. And then she goes on and says, I was almost thrown down the ground, and it's the worst thing that happened to me since my dad died. This is craziness. And it should be called out when it happens. And I'm glad people are doing it. I mean, this is something that's nice about the social media. The other thing I want to talk about in closing is the left and their view on free speech. I was a Democrat forever, and what's happened to my party is basically showed itself in Chicago. Whether Bernie wants to say it or not, they were Bernie supporters, or people that at least carried signs that they were Bernie supporters, and they become physical with people who don't believe what they believe when it comes to political ideologies. Is some of the things that Trump says over the top? Sure. But most of it has been taken out of context. He never said that Muslims would never come in this country. He said we need to limit it right now until we find out the people, especially the refugees, that they've been vetted. There's nothing wrong with that. He's probably a little over the top when it comes to building a wall, but I understand why. And we allowed them to continually come into this country, and it has impacted our economy. It could be the other thing that we always talk about. You want to blame the other people, not yourself. I subscribe to that. I think that it's more than just that. But when we're in a type of world now that having the southern border being open means not just Mexicans can come through it. It's also people that might come here and do something on a national scale that can hurt us. So building a wall, but there needs to be something to we stop the people coming in. There just needs to be, and we should not. I really don't think anybody from the Middle East should be allowed to immigrate to this country until we figure it out, and until their neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia, Yemen, whatever, Egypt, until they actually take some in, we shouldn't be the ones bringing it in. And those who live in Europe know that what's happening to them, and we're supposed to just sit there and allow it and let it happen. I'm not that part of the left. It's been a disaster for Europe, and then it's continued to be a disaster for Europe. It's not being racist when I say Muslims from the Middle East probably shouldn't be allowed in this country without being vetted, and even then should never really be allowed here anyway. There's no reason when there are other Muslim countries that are right next to them and they won't take them in. Why? We allow them to do that, but we're going to bring them in here? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or whatever didn't have the money or the space, but they do, and they know why they don't want them here because they know what they're going to do. So, but anyway, what happened in Chicago and St. Louis? This is a tactic of the left now, the authoritarian left, and they think that by disturbing a meeting or a rally is their how they look at their First Amendment, while it tramples on Trump or anybody else's ability to talk, that's okay. You can protest. There's no reason. I mean, it's in the Constitution. But there's a way to do it, and getting in fights with the cops or getting in fights with people because they believe something different than you, or like the feminists do when a man issues conferences going on and they pull down the fire alarms. That's not free speech. That's violation of the law. And comparing Hitler to or Trump to Hitler, or I hear people talking about he's like Pink from the Wall movie. I mean, I'm a huge fan of that movie, of the film, of the album, but he's not asking for people in the streets to kill you based on your race or sexual orientation. I mean, look, the truth is this: is that Trump is a liberal in a lot of ways, but he's upset like a lot of us are, and when it's taking money out of his pocket too, because he has to compete against people from China and all that other stuff. And he's right. I mean, the trade deficit between us and Mexico needs to stop. And we are the people that buy everything from these people. If we decide we're not going to do it anymore, they will have to come to the table. He is absolutely right here. And he's the only one that's saying anything about it, because everybody is tied into it. And he is absolutely right. He's not right on everything, but he's right here. And I believe in free trade and fair trade like he believes. And I think if he wants to build a wall, he's going to end up have them to actually pay for it. Not up front, but he's going to do it through tariffs and stuff. There is no reason why our car manufacturers or our people that build our Caterpillars or anything like that should move to Mexico to build stuff. There's no reason for it. We have the stuff here. We have the workers here. It should stay here. And I support him on this. And obviously nobody would ever believe this 18 months ago. But he's right again here. So maybe it's nationalist, maybe it's populist, but it's right. And so I support him. And I don't know if I'm going to vote for him or not. But the point is this: I think he's on the right. He's right. And regardless of what side you're on, left or right, these areas that need to bring up, the whole birther thing, I'm never going to give him a pass on that because I thought that was too much. As much that I think Obama has not done as well as he should have, I think that was too much. And he believes too much what he sees on the internet. He needs to get past that. But these things need to be talked about, because our politicians won't do anything about them. And we're just going to sit here and we'll just buy more and more shit and get fatter and fatter, and everybody be happy about it, while the people that make all the money will continue to make the money. Sorry, he's just right. And he's right about the First Amendment here. And Bernie Sanders, his supporters are not, nice, and these are the same people who are on campuses that want to shut down any type of discussions on anything, and will always believe when to believe is just putting your head in the sand. So that's basically what I had to say today. Kind of ramming at the end, but the end is we have the right to say what we want to say, but you cannot just stop other people from saying what they want to say because you don't agree with it, or it makes you feel different, or it might marginalize you. That's not how that works in this country. And without Trump, who would what would we be looking at right now? Would it be Cruz against Clinton? It'd be the same. Anyway, that's all I have. Thanks for watching. And if you like this this video, just share it and like it. And put something in the comments. Tell me I'm wrong, and we'll have a discussion in the comments. And if it's something that needs to be, if I need to respond to it, I will in video form. Again, thank you for watching. You guys have a good day. Bye.